brilliantly summarized the landscape. I want to know whether you're an optimist or a pessimist in the culture war. Some of us were at the National Review Institute last month, where a brilliant panel was speaking to this, and they were mostly pessimistic on turning it around.
Yes.
The liberal dominance of most of the cultural institutes.
It's a great question, and a disturbing one. Am I optimist or pessimist about turning it around? Being very immersed in my religion and study of the Bible, in fact, in LA I teach the Bible verse by verse. It's one of my projects, and I love it. It keeps me sane. If you study the Hebrew prophets, you will find they never told the future. It's a common misconception from the word prophet. All of the Hebrew prophecy is, if you act as follows, then the following will happen. They were not optimistic and they were not pessimistic. They said, if you do the following will happen. If we do not make the war clear and wage it in return, then I am pessimistic. If we make the war clear and wage it in return, I am optimistic. Most Americans do not share the values of the people who lead them. I'm on WABC New York every morning, and I ask New Yorkers periodically, every single one of you calls to tell me you're pro-capital punishment. Yet a lot of you voted for Governor Cuomo. Now, either you just don't think it's that important, or something else is going on here that I don't understand. The people who govern you don't share your values. Paul Johnson has made this now repeatedly. It's true in Britain, it's true here, though there at least they have a conservative government. But increasingly there is this gap. We elect people for one thing, but then they do the things that they really care about once they're elected. One thing that Republicans should do, and this is part of the reason I joined the party, one of the biggest reason. You're the only opposition to the liberal earthquake that is so destructive. You're the only one that can matter. I would now campaign as I would stop this campaigning for the individual and start campaigning for the party. The country is being ruined by the Democrats, ladies and gentlemen. Even if your Republican is mediocre, he is better than a glamorous, charismatic Democrat. That is what I now realize. That is why I voted for George Bush. He was not my kind of a Republican. He really didn't seem to stand for much. But and he did cave into the Democrats, that's the worst thing. See, when Republicans actually stand for something, they do tend to succeed. It's when they appear to be standing for nothing. Americans don't like people who stand for nothing. They rather have a passionate Democrat who's wrong than a non-passionate Republican who's right. And that's something that needs to be learned. Stand for something. Even if you stand for, we need to block what the Democrats are doing, at least you can then make the case. That's what I would tell Republican candidates. Folks, I am standing between you and the Democratic abyss. That's what I would tell in every single constituency in this country. We are hurting our government. The democratic ideas that have governed our country have given us more poverty, more family dysfunction, more crime, and immense budget deficits. Give us the country for as long as you gave it to them, okay? And I will bet you my house mortgage. I would have every candidate put their house mortgage, Republican candidate, up. Say, if you give us the government for 6 years and we don't turn it around, I give up my house. Okay? I will sleep in a tent for penance. I mean, something dramatic must be stated. The country take all these examples, like the Texas cheerleaders thing. I mean, think about it. The examples. I used to think when I went from 2 nights a week radio to every day 3 hours radio, I said to a colleague of mine, what do I have to talk about? I said, you'll see, you'll have plenty. Boy, I need 10 hours a day just to show you from daily papers how the country is being hurt by these ideas. New Mexico students, boys go into class with their pants down. ACLU has defended them against the school. The school said that they can't do it. And the ACLU said it's student right to dress as he wants. The school does not have the same amount of money the ACLU does. And then we are yelled at for making ACLU a dirty word. It deserves to be a dirty word. It is a largely destructive organization. The values I most care about, I just spoke 45 minutes on those values, they destroy. Let's be honest, okay? I said to Ira Glasser, their head, in a debate we had in Los Angeles, let me get something straight. This is on tape. I want to explain to you why so many Americans like me detest your organization. Tell me if this is not correct. The ACLU has done the following 2 litigations. 1, to remove the 10 Commandments from all public school walls. Is that correct? Yes. And it is litigated for Maryland students to be able to walk into class with obscenity written on their T-shirts. Is that correct? Yes. So, okay, fine. At least you understand why some of us detest you. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry for taking so long on an answer. Does anybody else have a... yes, Father.
I'm not sure it's a question. It's one of those alternate speeches, I think.
Fine.
As a conservative Episcopalian, which is a dying breed.
Yes, it is.
3 points. Firstly, I agree with everything you've said, and think you've identified for us beautifully the war people like you and I are involved in. 3 points. One is, do you see the roots of this as being what we mistakenly call the Enlightenment in the 18th century? Secondly, I read somewhere that if we accept the fact that man is flawed, which the Judeo-Christian tradition does, there are then 2 logical conclusions to that. One is murder, the other is forgiveness. It strikes me we're on the first route of those, culturally. And the third thing, also I read somewhere, Adam was made in the image of God. We are made in the image of Adam.
Right, but it was God to get the third first. It was when God said, "Let us make man in our image." Adam had not yet been created.
But then the point that I was reading was that Adam then falls.
Yes, I think there's a third alternative to forgiveness and murder, to the essential flawed nature of humanity, and that is that we can be made better, but not by government, but by that's where your religion comes in. In my religion, it is through the commandments. In Christianity, it is through faith and works. Sacraments in Catholicism. I mean, that's where the religions answer differently. That's why I love theology, but it's a separate issue. What unites us is infinitely more important than what disunites us. I mean, Christians and Jews in this regard. But since you raised it, I make demands of human beings. My view of goodness is very much akin to musical ability. I believe that human goodness can be extracted, just like violin playing. Most of you cannot play the violin, but if you took lessons, you could in fact play rather well. I hold the same with goodness. Most of us are not nearly as good as we could be. With goodness lessons, we could be very good. In fact, my argument is that we teach everything, in fact, except goodness. Part of the reasons we don't teach goodness is because of your right. And this is your first point. Yes, it does emanate from the Enlightenment, which was not enlightened in some ways. In some ways it was. There were some very beautiful aspects of the Enlightenment, but the faith in human nature was a terrible, terrible error. Thank you all very much.
This has been a GoPack audio tape, made possible by the generous contributions of its members.